Cowboy saw her being denied at the store, whispered, "Ride with me, I'll fill your table tonight." Dust swirled over the rocky terrain, catching the light and turning the barren colony into a scene of quiet, fragile beauty. The settlement was small, scattered prefabricated buildings, small gardens struggling to grow in artificial soil, and streets made of compacted dirt that bore the marks of countless footsteps. Life here was hard, and everyone felt it. Leela Hart pulled her coat tighter against the chill of the evening wind. Her little boy, Sammy, clutched her hand and stared at the dust swirling around their boots. She had been to the colony store that morning, hopeful that the new shipment of rations might make it in time for her family. But the clerk had refused her, shaking his head and muttering about quotas and corporate rules. "They say I don't have enough credits," Leela whispered, more to herself than to Sammy, "but I have enough heart to feed my boy." Sammy frowned, his small face scrunching up in confusion. "Mama, I'm hungry," he said softly. Leela's chest tightened. Hunger was a constant shadow in Nova Mesa. The colonists had come here hoping for a better life, but resources were always scarce. The corporation that ran the colony prioritized profits over people, and families like Leela's often went without. She walked past the store, her boots kicking up tiny clouds of dust, trying not to cry. Sammy followed close behind, his tiny hands gripping hers tightly. That's when she noticed him, a lone figure leaning against a hovering bike outside the store. He was tall, with sun-streaked hair that fell across his forehead and a weathered coat that hinted at long days under the sun. There was an air about him, something that spoke of confidence and quiet strength. The man's gaze met hers and he smiled, not a smug, arrogant smile, but one of understanding. It was as if he could see every worry etched into her face. "You look like you've had a rough day," he said, his voice low but clear, carrying over the dusty street. Leela paused. She didn't know why, but there was something in the way he spoke that made her want to trust him. It's been hard," she admitted. The man straightened slightly and leaned toward her. "I can help," he whispered. "Ride with me, I'll fill your table tonight." Leela's heart skipped a beat. It was a strange offer from a stranger, but there was a warmth in his eyes she couldn't ignore. She glanced down at Sammy, who looked up at her with wide, hopeful eyes. Could she trust this man? Could a stranger really help her? She hesitated. But then hunger, worry, and the weight of her responsibilities pressed down on her. She nodded slowly. "All right," she said softly. The man's smile widened. "Good, climb on." He handed her a small strap to hold onto and swung onto his hovering bike. Sammy's eyes widened with excitement and fear as Leela lifted him onto the back, securing him safely. The engine hummed, low and steady, and then they were off. The bike floated above the dirt road, gliding effortlessly over rocks and debris. At first, Leela clutched Sammy tightly, her stomach twisting with nerves. But as they moved, she realized the ride wasn't just fast, it was freeing. The wind whipped through her hair, and the sunset painted everything in shades of orange and red. For the first time in days, she felt a spark of hope. The man introduced himself as Jace Rawlins, though he didn't say much else about his past. There was a mystery about him, a sense that he had been everywhere and seen everything. But what mattered to Leela was the present. He had promised to help, and he seemed to mean it. As they rode, they passed fields of struggling crops, small gardens barely keeping up with the harsh conditions of Nova Mesa. Machines and drones flew overhead, monitoring the settlements, but none interfered with them. Jace navigated the terrain with ease, weaving around rocks and shallow ravines, his bike making only a soft hum. "Where are we going?" Leela asked, curiosity winning over caution. "Somewhere safe," Jace replied, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Somewhere no one will stop us from feeding your family tonight." They rode in silence for a while, the only sounds being the hum of the bike and the occasional whisper of the wind. Leela felt her worries ease slightly. Jace didn't rush or push. He simply moved with confidence as if he knew exactly where he was going. Eventually, they reached a ridge overlooking the colony. The view was breathtaking. Tiny lights flickered in the distance, homes and settlements scattered across the dusty landscape. Beyond the colony, the land stretched endlessly, barren but beautiful under the glowing sky. Jace stopped the bike and turned to Leela. "You see that?" he asked. "All this land, it has more than you think. Sometimes you just need to know where to look." Leela nodded, unsure of what he meant, but she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a way to survive, to provide for her child after all. They continued for what felt like hours, moving deeper into the open expanse. Night fell, and the stars came out, bright and endless above them. Leela had never seen anything like it. The galaxy stretched in every direction, millions of tiny lights shimmering in the blackness. It made her problems feel smaller, yet also more urgent. Finally, they arrived at a hidden area, tucked away behind a ridge. It was an old storage area, forgotten by most, but carefully maintained by Jace. Crates filled with preserved food, fresh water, and other supplies were stacked neatly, and a small garden had been cultivated, thriving under the careful care of automated systems. "This is amazing," Leela whispered, her eyes wide. "Where did you find all this?" Jace shrugged, a small smile on his lips. "I've been looking out for people like you, people who get ignored. There's enough for everyone if you know where to look." He handed Leela a crate filled with fresh vegetables, bread, and protein packs. Sammy's eyes lit up as he saw the food, and he ran forward to grab a small loaf of bread. Leela felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. After so many days of scarcity and fear, this simple act of kindness felt miraculous. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I don't know how I can ever repay you." Jace shook his head. "Just promise me you'll help someone else when you can. That's all I ask." Leela nodded, understanding. In a world as harsh as Nova Mesa, kindness was a treasure. And tonight, Jace had given her a chance, not just to feed her family, but to believe in the goodness of people again. As they sat by the crates, sharing the first meal in days, Leela felt a sense of warmth and safety she hadn't felt in a long time. The stars above shone down like silent witnesses, and the wind whispered through the rocks, carrying a quiet promise of hope. Jace watched them, a silent guardian in the night. He didn't stay long, knowing his presence would attract attention if he lingered. But before he left, he leaned down and whispered to Leela again, just as he had when they first met. "Ride with me again if you ever need help. Humanity doesn't give up. Neither should you." And with that, he mounted his bike and disappeared into the darkness, leaving Leela and Sammy with full bellies, full hearts, and a new hope that maybe, just maybe, they could survive, and even thrive, on this harsh frontier world. For the first time in weeks, Leela allowed herself to dream of tomorrow. The morning sun crept over the dusty horizon, casting long shadows across the uneven terrain of Nova Mesa. Leela awoke to the sound of wind whistling through the rocks outside, and for the first time in days, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Sammy was still asleep, curled up with a blanket he had dragged from their small home. Leela looked at him, her heart swelling with love and worry. The world was hard here, but today, maybe, things could be different. She packed the few belongings they owned into a small satchel and carried it to the hidden storage area where Jace had left supplies. Vegetables, bread, protein packs, and clean water were neatly arranged in crates. She looked around the small refuge and wondered how someone like Jace could keep this place hidden and stocked. His kindness was mysterious, but it gave her a glimmer of courage. "Time to go, Sammy," she whispered, shaking him gently awake. The boy rubbed his eyes and blinked at the sunlight streaming through the rocks. "Are we going somewhere fun today, Mama?" "Yes," Leela said with a soft smile. "Somewhere safe and full of surprises." By mid-morning, they were back at the ridge where Jace had first appeared. True to his word, he was there again, hovering on his bike, scanning the horizon as if he had been waiting for them. Leela felt a mixture of relief and nervousness. The stranger had promised safety and food, but she didn't know the full extent of the journey ahead. "Ready?" Jace asked, voice calm and steady. His eyes held the same warmth as the day before. Leela nodded. "Ready." Sammy jumped on behind her, gripping her waist tightly. Jace gave a small nod and the bike lifted off the ground, gliding smoothly over the rocky terrain. The wind rushed past them, carrying dust and the faint smell of the desert. Leela held on, feeling her nerves settle with each passing moment. The ride was not just fast, it was alive. Jace maneuvered the bike expertly, swerving around jagged rocks, avoiding deep ravines and crossing narrow canyons with ease. Leela watched the horizon change, the barren landscape giving way to stretches of small, struggling greenery. It was clear that somewhere life was still trying to thrive despite the harsh conditions. "Where are we going?" she asked, curiosity overcoming her caution. "Somewhere the colony doesn't want anyone to know," Jace said with a slight grin. "You'll see soon enough." As they rode, they passed signs of life, or at least the remnants of it. An old mining drone lay half buried in the sand, its metal frame rusting in the sunlight. Leela recognized the shapes of abandoned settlements, small homes that had once been filled with families, now silent and empty. The sight was sobering, a reminder of how fragile life was on Nova Mesa. Sammy pointed excitedly at a flock of small, bird-like drones swooping across the sky. "Look, Mama, they're flying like birds." Leela smiled, feeling a spark of joy. Even in a harsh world, life found ways to surprise and inspire. Jace glanced back at them, a quiet satisfaction in his eyes. "Pay attention, Sammy. The world has more surprises than you think." Hours passed as they traveled deeper into the frontier. Jace didn't speak much, letting the ride speak for itself. Leela observed the man carefully. There was a confidence in every movement, a quiet strength that came from experience. She realized that this man was more than a helper. He was a guide, someone who could navigate the harshest parts of the colony with ease. Eventually, the terrain began to change. The flat, rocky plains gave way to a narrow canyon, walls rising on either side like silent guardians. The path became treacherous, full of loose stones and sudden drops. Leela felt her stomach twist with nerves, but Jace remained calm, guiding the bike with steady hands. "Hold tight," he said softly, sensing her unease. "We're almost there." The bike dipped and swerved, narrowly avoiding a sudden rockslide. Leela clutched Sammy and leaned into Jace, trusting his skill. They emerged from the canyon into a hidden valley, a place that seemed untouched by the harshness of Nova Mesa. The valley was small but lush, with patches of green plants and a faint stream of water trickling through the rocks. Leela's eyes widened. This is incredible," she whispered. Jace nodded. "Few know about this place. It's hidden, safe, and full of life, you'll see." He led them to a small, camouflaged structure tucked into the valley wall. Inside, the air was cool, and the room was filled with crates of food, water, and basic supplies. Automated gardening systems tended to rows of vegetables, and small hydroponic tanks held fish and other protein sources. The space was simple but efficient, a hidden treasure in the middle of a harsh world. Leela gasped softly. "How did you find all this?" Jace shrugged. "I've been looking out for families like yours, people who get ignored. The colony is harsh, but there's enough to go around if you know where to look." Sammy ran forward to grab a small loaf of bread, his eyes wide with delight. Leela laughed softly, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It had been so long since she had seen her child smile without worry or hunger in his eyes. They settled down in the small valley, sharing a meal as the sun climbed higher in the sky. Leela felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in months. For a brief moment, it felt like the world outside didn't matter. After the meal, Jace took them outside to explore the valley. He showed Leela the hydroponic tanks, explaining how they could grow food efficiently, even in a place as harsh as Nova Mesa. Leela listened intently, absorbing every detail. She realized that survival wasn't just about finding food. It was about knowledge, creativity, and determination. Humans are amazing when they work together, Jace said, glancing at her. We've built entire colonies on planets that were supposed to be uninhabitable. We find ways, even when the odds are against us. Leela nodded, feeling a sense of pride she hadn't felt before. She thought of her ancestors, the first settlers of Nova Mesa, and the courage it had taken to carve out a life in this harsh land. Now, she was part of that story, and somehow, that made her feel stronger. As the day passed, Jace taught Leela and Sammy how to gather water safely, tend to the small garden, and maintain the automated systems. Every task was a lesson in human ingenuity and resilience. Leela marveled at how much they could accomplish with so little, and she began to see the possibilities for her family's future. But the frontier was never truly safe. As evening approached, Jace's expression grew serious. He scanned the horizon, his eyes narrowing. "We're not alone," he said softly. "There are patrol drones nearby. They watch for unauthorized activity. We'll need to be careful." Leela's heart raced. Even here in a hidden valley, danger could find them, but she also felt a surge of determination. If humanity could survive on Nova Mesa, they could survive anything. Jace led them in setting up basic defenses, simple sensors to detect movement, traps to slow intruders, and signals to warn them of approaching danger. Leela helped, her hands shaking slightly but her resolve firm. She realized that survival wasn't just about food or water. It was about courage, planning, and the willingness to act. As night fell, they huddled together under a small canopy, watching the stars twinkle above. The valley was quiet, but Leela knew that the frontier world beyond was unpredictable and dangerous. Yet, for the first time, she felt ready to face it. Jace leaned back against the rock, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "Humans are resilient," he said quietly. "We adapt, we survive, and we help each other. That's what makes us strong." Leela nodded, holding Sammy close. She thought of all the families who had struggled, the children who had gone hungry, and the people who had been ignored by the colony's rules. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to change things, not just for herself, but for everyone. The night stretched on and the wind whispered through the valley. Leela felt a deep sense of connection, to the land, to her child, and to the stranger who had shown them kindness. Tomorrow, she would take the lessons she had learned today and begin a journey of hope, courage, and human determination. And somewhere in the distance, Jace watched over them, a silent guardian in the frontier night, ready to guide them through the challenges that lay ahead. The next morning, the valley was bathed in a soft golden light. Leela woke first, the cool air brushing her cheeks, and looked around at the hidden refuge. Sammy was still asleep, his small chest rising and falling with each quiet breath. She smiled, feeling a calm she hadn't felt in months. The valley was safe, but Jace had said they couldn't stay forever. Jace appeared shortly after, moving with his usual quiet confidence. "Ready for today?" he asked. Leela nodded. "Where are we going now?" she asked, curiosity and a little nervousness in her voice. "You'll see," Jace said, his eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and secrecy. "It's something that could change everything for your family and maybe more." They loaded the remaining supplies onto the hoverbike, careful not to disturb the delicate systems in the valley. Sammy clutched a small satchel full of food, looking up at Jace with wide eyes. "Are we going on another adventure?" he asked eagerly. "Yes," Jace said, smiling, "but it will be a big one." The bike lifted off the ground, humming steadily as it carried them over the rocky terrain. They followed a winding path that took them further from the colony, into an area few settlers had ever dared to explore. The landscape changed as they moved. Dusty plains gave way to jagged cliffs, and dry rocks slowly turned into patches of greenery that defied the harsh climate. Leela marveled at the scenery. Even in a world as difficult as Nova Mesa, life found a way. Small plants sprouted in the cracks of the rocks, and tiny insects moved along the edges of the cliffs. Sammy pointed excitedly at a distant herd of small, hardy animals grazing on sparse vegetation. "Look, Mama," he shouted. "Animals." "Yes," Leela said softly. "Even here life survives. That's amazing." After hours of riding, Jay stopped at the edge of a hidden ravine. He turned to Leela and Sammy. "From here it's on foot. Follow me and be careful." The ravine was narrow and winding, with rocks that shifted underfoot. Leela held Sammy's hand tightly, helping him over uneven stones. Jace moved ahead with ease, as if he had walked this path countless times before. The air was filled with the faint hum of machinery, a sound that seemed strange in such a wild place. Finally, they reached a massive gate hidden among overgrown vegetation. The metal was weathered but strong, and it bore the marks of old corporate logos. Jace inspected a small panel beside the gate, pressing buttons and typing a sequence. With a low hum, the gate slid open, revealing a breathtaking sight. Inside was a biodome, a hidden oasis in the middle of Nova Mesa. The dome stretched wide and high, filled with sunlight filtered through a protective layer that kept the climate perfect. Inside, rows of crops flourished, vegetables, grains, and fruits of all kinds. Small livestock grazed in pens, and water flowed through channels that kept the plants and animals nourished. It was a paradise hidden from the world. Leela gasped. This is incredible." Jace smiled. It was part of an old terraforming project. They tried to make Nova Mesa livable, but the corporation abandoned it. Most people don't know it exists. Sammy ran forward, eyes wide with wonder. "Look at all the food. Mama, we can take some." "Yes, but carefully," Jace said. "This place is valuable and we need to respect it. Take only what you need." Leela walked among the rows of plants, feeling a mixture of awe and disbelief. She had never seen so much food in her life, all thriving without struggle. For the first time, she realized that survival didn't have to mean constant fear and hunger. Humanity could thrive if people worked together and used their intelligence and care. "This could feed so many families," Leela said, her voice soft. "Not just mine." Jace nodded. "That's the idea, but the corporation still monitors these areas. If they find out what we're doing, they won't be happy." Leela's heart raced. Danger was real even here, but she also felt determination. If humanity could survive the harshness of Nova Mesa, they could find ways to protect this hidden paradise and help those in need. Jace led them to a small control room in the biodome. Screens displayed climate data, water levels, and the status of crops. Leela watched as he explained how everything worked, from the automated watering systems to the small energy cells that powered the dome. Every piece of technology was designed for efficiency, but it required careful maintenance. "You see," Jace said, "humans have a way of creating solutions in impossible conditions. That's why we survive. That's why we thrive, even when everything seems against us." Leela nodded, absorbing every word. She felt a sense of pride swell inside her. Humans were not just survivors. They were problem solvers, builders, and protectors. She could feel the strength of generations behind her, the resilience passed down through courage and ingenuity. They spent the day gathering supplies carefully, taking only what they could carry. Jace showed them how to select the freshest produce, how to handle the livestock gently, and how to ensure the systems remained stable. Leela worked alongside him, her confidence growing with every task. Sammy helped too, small hands eager to assist. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Jace gathered them near the edge of the biodome. "We have enough food to last weeks, maybe months," he said. "But we need a plan. The corporation can't know about this. We must be smart, careful, and quick." Leela looked at him, determination shining in her eyes. "We'll protect this place. We'll make sure others get what they need. Humanity doesn't give up, and neither will we." Jace smiled, a rare softness in his eyes. "That's why I brought you here." You have courage, heart, and intelligence. That's what humans need more than anything, people willing to stand up and do the right thing. Night fell, and they camped inside the dome, using small lights to avoid drawing attention. The dome was safe, warm, and full of promise. Leela sat with Sammy, feeling a sense of security she had never known before. For the first time, she believed that the future could be bright, that hunger and fear could be replaced with hope and abundance. As they rested, Jace kept watch near the entrance. His eyes scanned the darkness outside, alert for any sign of danger. He knew the corporation's drones were out there, watching, waiting. But he also knew that humanity's strength was in its ability to adapt, to work together, and to fight for what was right. Leela watched him, admiration growing. She realized that this journey was about more than survival. It was about showing that humans, even in the harshest conditions, could rise above oppression, care for each other, and create life where none seemed possible. The night passed quietly, the hum of the biodome systems providing a soothing rhythm. Leela slept with a sense of purpose, her dreams filled with fields of crops, smiling children, and a world where humans thrived through courage, kindness, and ingenuity. When morning came, the first rays of sunlight filtered through the dome, casting a warm glow over the plants and animals. Leela woke with renewed determination. Today, they would begin the work of sharing this hidden bounty carefully, helping families without attracting attention. Today, she would take the lessons of human resilience and courage and turn them into action. Jace met her outside, his expression serious but hopeful. "It's time to start," he said. "The frontier is harsh, but humanity is stronger. We'll show them that." Leela nodded. She felt ready. The discovery of the biodome had changed everything. It was a place of life, hope, and opportunity, a reminder that no matter how hard the world tried to break humans, their ingenuity, courage, and heart would always prevail. And so, with Sammy holding her hand, Leela stepped forward into the dawn, ready to face the challenges ahead. She knew that the road would not be easy, that danger could come at any moment, but she also knew that humanity was capable of incredible things when it worked together, when it refused to give up. The frontier awaited, and Leela Hart was ready. The sun was barely rising over Nova Mesa when Leela, Sammy, and Jace prepared to leave the hidden biodome. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of soil and plants. Leela's heart beat with a mix of excitement and nerves. Today, they would begin the risky task of sharing the hidden bounty with other settlers, people who had gone hungry for weeks, struggling under the harsh rules of the colony. Jace handed Leela a small pack filled with carefully wrapped vegetables and bread. "Take only what you can carry," he said. "We can't attract attention. If the corporation finds out, they won't stop until everything is taken away." Leela nodded. She understood the stakes. She glanced at Sammy, who was already excited to help. "Are you ready, little one?" she asked. Sammy grinned. "I'm ready, Mama." They rode Jace's hoverbike, gliding over rocky plains and winding paths. Leela held Sammy tight, feeling a thrill of adventure mixed with fear. The desert stretched endlessly around them, a harsh and unforgiving landscape. Yet beneath its rough exterior, life still persisted. Small patches of green, the occasional animal, and hidden water channels reminded her that survival was possible, even here. As they neared the settlement where they planned to deliver food, Jace's expression grew serious. "We need to be careful," he said. "The corporation's patrol drones are everywhere. They watch for unauthorized activity. One wrong move and we'll be in trouble." Leela's heart raced, but she squared her shoulders. "We can do this. We have to help them." The settlement appeared in the distance, a cluster of small buildings surrounded by fences. Smoke rose from chimneys, and children ran between homes, their laughter faint but present. Many families were hungry, their faces pale from lack of proper food. Leela's heart ached. She had been there herself not long ago. They landed near the outskirts, careful not to attract attention. Jace helped Leela and Sammy unload the supplies. showing her how to distribute them quietly and efficiently. Leela went from home to home, giving each family enough to eat while maintaining discretion. Faces lit up with gratitude and relief. Children clutched the food close, parents offered hesitant smiles, and whispers of thanks followed her as she moved through the settlement. This, this is amazing, a young mother said, tears in her eyes. I thought we'd go hungry again tonight. Leela smiled softly. You won't, she said. Not tonight. Hours passed and the food was nearly gone. Leela felt a sense of fulfillment unlike anything she had known before. Yet just as they were about to leave, a faint humming sound reached her ears. She froze, scanning the horizon. Drones, Jace whispered, his eyes narrowing. They've spotted us. Leela's heart skipped a beat. The corporation's patrol drones were fast, sleek machines, built to track and capture anyone who interfered with their rules. She gripped Sammy tightly, feeling a surge of fear, but also determination. They had come too far to turn back now. Jace acted quickly. We'll make a stand, he said. Humans survive because we adapt, think fast, and work together. Follow my lead. He guided Leela and Sammy to a small ridge overlooking the settlement. From this vantage point, they could see the drones approaching, scanning for movement. Leela's mind raced. How could three people face such advanced machines? But then she remembered something Jace had said. Humans were capable of incredible things when they used their intelligence, courage, and teamwork. Jace quickly devised a plan. They would use the terrain to their advantage. Rocks, hills, and natural cover would make the drone's sensors less effective. Leela helped him gather supplies from the hoverbike, small mirrors, wires, and reflective panels that could confuse the drone's sensors. Sammy watched intently, eager to assist in any way he could. Stay close to me, Jace instructed. We'll create a distraction, then get everyone to safety. The drones drew closer, their mechanical eyes scanning every inch of the settlement. Suddenly, Jace activated a series of reflective panels, catching the sun and sending blinding flashes toward the drones. The machines wavered, their sensors confused by the sudden light. Leela felt her heart pounding. It was working, but only for a moment. Now, Jace shouted. They moved quickly, leading the settlers toward the ridge and the hidden paths that would take them to safety. Leela carried Sammy, her mind focused on keeping him safe while helping others navigate the rough terrain. Families stumbled, but with Jace's guidance and Leela's encouragement, they kept moving. The drones adjusted, scanning more carefully now. One hovered dangerously close, its sensors locking onto the group. Leela felt a surge of fear, but then she remembered the lessons of the biodome. Humans survived by thinking, adapting, and staying calm under pressure. She grabbed a nearby rock and, following Jace's instructions, activated a small wire mechanism. The rock rolled down the slope, triggering a dust explosion that sent the drone into a temporary malfunction. It wobbled and beeped, giving them a chance to move further along the path. Good work, Leela, Jace shouted. Keep going. The settlers followed their lead, hearts racing but determination strong. Every step was a test of courage and intelligence. They used narrow passages, rocky outcrops, and quick thinking to stay ahead of the drones. Leela felt a deep sense of pride. These people were not helpless. They were survivors, capable of incredible ingenuity when guided and inspired. After what felt like hours, the group reached a hidden canyon that led to a series of natural tunnels. Jace signaled them to enter, and one by one, the families followed. Leela carried Sammy, helping others along the way. The drones hovered above, unable to follow into the narrow spaces, their mechanical hum fading into the distance. Once they were safely inside the tunnels, Leela collapsed against the cool rock, breathing heavily but relieved. Sammy clung to her, eyes wide but full of trust. The other settlers gathered around, exhausted but safe. Jace looked at them all, his expression serious but proud. You see, he said, humans survive because we think, we adapt, and we work together. This is what makes us strong. Not machines, not rules, us. Leela nodded, feeling a surge of hope. She realized that survival on Nova Mesa was not just about food or shelter. It was about courage, quick thinking, and community. Together, humans could overcome any challenge, even against the most advanced technology. As night fell, they made camp in the tunnels, using small lights to avoid detection. The families shared the food they had brought, laughing and talking quietly. For a moment, the harsh world outside seemed distant, replaced by warmth, camaraderie, and hope. Leela sat with Sammy, watching the other settlers. She thought of how far they had come, from hunger and fear to safety and abundance. And she thought of Jace, who had guided them through danger and shown them the power of human ingenuity and courage. "This is amazing, Mama," Sammy whispered, holding a piece of bread. "We helped everyone." "Yes, little one," Leela said softly. "We did. Humans never give up and we always find a way." Jace watched from a short distance, his eyes scanning the tunnels. He knew the corporation would not give up easily. More drones could arrive and more obstacles would appear. But he also knew that humans were clever, resourceful, and brave. As long as they worked together, they could overcome anything. The night was quiet, but Leela felt a deep sense of purpose. The frontier was harsh, the colony's rules unfair, but humanity's strength lay in its courage, creativity, and determination to help one another. She knew that this was just the beginning of a larger journey, a journey to protect the hidden bounty, feed the hungry, and prove that humans could rise above any challenge. As the stars twinkled above through small openings in the tunnel, Leela held Sammy close. Tomorrow they would continue their mission, spreading hope and sustenance wherever they could. Danger would come again, but she was ready. Humans always found a way. And somewhere above, in the darkened skies of Nova Mesa, Jace's hoverbike waited, a symbol of guidance, protection, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the skies above Nova Mesa in soft golds and pinks. The tunnels where Lila, Sammy, Jace, and the other settlers had spent the night were cool and quiet, the air filled with the faint scent of earth and the lingering warmth of their shared meals. Though their hearts still beat fast from the previous day's dangers, a sense of purpose filled the space. They had survived the drones, protected the hidden bounty, and now, for the first time in weeks, there was hope. Leela awoke first, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. Sammy was still asleep, curled into a small ball beside her. She smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from his face. Today would be a new beginning. The hidden biodome and the supplies they had secured could feed many families, not just her own. Jace stirred from a short distance, stretching his long arms. His eyes, always alert, scanned the tunnel before he finally met Leela's gaze. "Ready?" he asked. "We'll move today carefully. The frontier is harsh, but humans are stronger." Leela nodded, determination in her eyes. "We're ready." They began to move, leading the families out of the tunnels and toward the open plains. The sun was rising higher now, casting long shadows on the rugged terrain. Leela held Sammy's hand tightly, feeling the warmth of his small grip and the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. This was their life now: survival, courage, and the careful sharing of hope. The path to the settlement was fraught with challenges. They had to navigate rocky ridges, sudden drops, and narrow passages. Jace led the way, scouting ahead for any signs of patrol drones or obstacles. Leela followed closely, helping families along the difficult stretches and making sure Sammy stayed safe. Despite the danger, there was laughter and conversation, small signs of life and resilience. As they approached the outskirts of the settlement, the families began to scatter quietly, delivering supplies to neighbors in need. Children clutched small loaves of bread, mothers held bundles of vegetables, and fathers carried water and protein packs. The relief on their faces was palpable, and Leela felt her heart swell. This is amazing," a man whispered as he received a crate. "I never thought we'd see food like this again." "It's real," Leela said softly, smiling. Humans can make life better if we work together. Jace watched from a distance, his eyes scanning the horizon. The drones could arrive at any moment, but he also knew that humanity's ingenuity and teamwork would prevail. He had seen it in the way Leela and the settlers had adapted, helped each other, and stayed calm under pressure. Suddenly, a faint hum reached them, an unmistakable sound of the patrol drones. Leela froze, her heart hammering. Jace's eyes narrowed. "They've found us," he said quietly. Panic rippled through the settlers, but Jace remained calm. "Listen," he said, voice firm. "We've faced danger before. Humans survive by thinking fast and working together. Follow me, and we'll keep everyone safe." He led the group to a small ridge overlooking the settlement, a vantage point that provided cover while keeping the drones in view. Leela held Sammy close, guiding other families along the path. Jace quickly devised a plan, using mirrors, wires, and reflective surfaces to confuse the drone's sensors. The machines hovered closer, their mechanical eyes scanning for movement. Jace activated the reflective panels, sending bursts of light toward the drones. They wavered, disoriented by the sudden flashes. Leela felt a surge of hope. It was working, but only for a moment. "Move now," Jace shouted. They guided the families down hidden paths, narrow canyons, and rocky outcrops, using the terrain to their advantage. Leela carried Sammy while helping others along the treacherous path. Every step required focus, courage, and teamwork. One of the drones adjusted, scanning the ridge more carefully. Leela's stomach twisted with fear, but she remembered Jace's words. Humans survive by adapting, thinking fast, and never giving up. She grabbed a rock and, following Jace's instructions, triggered a small wire mechanism. The rock tumbled down the slope, kicking up dust and sand, and the drone's sensors went haywire. It wobbled and beeped, giving them the precious seconds they needed. The settlers moved as one, using every trick Jace had taught them. They ducked, ran, and crawled, guiding the youngest children and the oldest adults to safety. Leela felt her heart swell with pride. These people were not helpless. They were survivors, capable of brilliance when guided and inspired. After what felt like hours, they reached a wide canyon that led to the hidden paths connecting to the biodome. The drones hovered above, unable to follow, their hum fading as the settlers disappeared into safety. Leela collapsed against a rock, breathing heavily but relieved. Sammy clung to her, eyes wide but full of trust. Jace looked over the group, his face serious but proud. "You see," he said, "this is why humans survive. We adapt, think, and work together. No machine, no rule, no obstacle can stop us when we unite." The settlers nodded, exhausted but grateful. Families shared quiet smiles and whispered thanks. Leela felt a deep sense of purpose. They had not only survived, they had protected life, shared hope, and proven the strength of humanity. By mid-morning, they returned to the hidden biodome. Leela and the settlers carried crates of supplies back, ensuring the dome remained stocked and ready for future needs. Jace supervised, teaching them how to maintain the systems, tend the gardens, and care for the livestock. Every task was a lesson in ingenuity, efficiency, and human perseverance. "This is more than just survival," Jace said, his voice calm and steady. "It's proof that humans can create life, even in the harshest conditions. We thrive because we never give up, because we think, adapt, and care for each other." Leela watched the children tending small hydroponic plants and the adults checking water levels. Even Sammy carried a small watering device, proudly contributing. She felt a sense of pride she had never experienced. Humanity's strength wasn't just in technology, it was in courage, kindness, and the will to rise above challenges. As evening approached, the group prepared a communal meal. The crates of food, carefully preserved and supplemented by the biodome's crops, filled the tables. Families gathered, laughter echoing through the dome. For many, it was the first time in weeks they had eaten without fear of scarcity. Leela set a plate for Sammy, who beamed at the sight of the colorful vegetables and warm bread. She looked around at the smiling faces of the settlers and felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was what life could be: abundance, community, and hope. Jace watched quietly, leaning against a wall. He had guided them through danger, taught them how to survive, and inspired them to believe in their own strength. He had given them the tools, but it was humanity, their courage, intelligence, and compassion, that had made today possible. As night fell over Nova Mesa, the settlers shared stories around small fires, their faces glowing in the soft light. Leela held Sammy close, listening to his laughter and the gentle chatter around them. For the first time, the harsh frontier seemed full of possibilities. "We did it, Mama," Sammy whispered. "We helped everyone." "Yes, little one," Leela said softly. "We did. Humans never give up and we always find a way." Jace approached, a rare smile on his face. "Remember this feeling," he said. "This is why we fight, why we survive. We protect life, help each other, and rise above every obstacle. Humanity is stronger than any danger." Leela nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The frontier would always be dangerous, the corporation always threatening, but she knew one truth: humans had an unyielding spirit. They could create, protect, and thrive even in the harshest worlds. The night sky above was filled with stars, bright and endless. Leela gazed upward, feeling a connection to the generations of humans who had survived, adapted, and built lives on planets far from Earth. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape, filled with hope, courage, and the relentless determination of humanity. Jace mounted his hoverbike, preparing to leave. "I'll be around if you need help," he said. "But remember, the strength is already inside you. Humans survive because we never stop trying." Leela smiled, feeling the weight of the journey behind her and the promise of the future ahead. Sammy waved as Jace disappeared over the horizon, the hum of his bike fading into the night. The settlers returned to their homes within the dome, their hearts full and their bellies fed. Leela looked around one last time, taking in the thriving gardens, the flowing water, and the families who had once struggled. It was a triumph not just of survival, but of human courage, ingenuity, and unity. As she tucked Sammy into bed, Leela whispered, "Tomorrow, we keep going. We protect this place, help others, and show the world what humans can do." He smiled sleepily, holding her hand. "Humans are amazing, Mama," he said. "Yes, they are, little one," Leela whispered, closing her eyes. "Yes, they are." Outside, the stars shone bright over Nova Mesa, silent witnesses to the triumph of humanity. And in that quiet, the frontier world seemed just a little kinder, a little safer, because humans had risen to the challenge and refused to give up. For the first time, Leela truly believed. No matter how harsh the universe, humanity would always find a way.